In recent decades, Ireland has experienced an impressive economic rise, becoming a magnet for investments, people, and companies worldwide, largely due to its economic development model based on innovation and foreign investment. This approach has provided quality of life and income to its population, to the extent that the Irish hold the third highest GDP per capita in the world and the seventh highest HDI in Europe. However, Ireland is currently facing a growing economic and social crisis that is shaking its prosperity, with the rising cost of living and a housing crisis making life difficult for the average Irish citizen. This has raised doubts about whether the nation will be able to maintain economic growth while ensuring quality of life and comfort for its people. Consequently, this uncertainty has led to an exodus of Irish citizens in recent years, particularly young and skilled professionals seeking better living conditions in other countries. In fact, 1/3 of the country's residents are considering moving to a more affordable country to escape Ireland's high costs. In this video, we will explore why living in Ireland has become impossible and examine the causes and consequences of this problem, which could erode the nation's hard-earned success. In this context, the economic and social challenges Ireland faces today are closely linked to its economic boom. Therefore, it is essential to analyze the country's economic ascent to understand the complexity of the Irish economy, which transformed within a few decades from a stagnant nation into one of Europe's most dynamic and open economies. Ireland's shift in trajectory began with its entry into the European Economic Community in the 1970s, which later evolved into the European Union as we know it today. At the time, the EEC already had mechanisms similar to the current bloc, such as a free market, easy access for member states to foreign investment, and bloc incentives to develop sectors of the economy like industry and infrastructure. In Ireland's case, with a limited population of around 3 million inhabitants at the time, the European bloc was crucial for the country to access a continental-scale consumer market without facing customs barriers or unfair tariffs. Thus, the ease of integration with some of the world's most industrialized economies, such as Germany, France, Italy, and the United Kingdom, allowed Ireland to maximize its strategic advantages and attract technology and innovation companies. Combined with a policy of low corporate and income taxes, this granted Ireland the status of Europe's Silicon Valley at the beginning of the 21st century, with companies like eBay, Google, and PayPal establishing themselves in Dublin in 2003, alongside other tech giants such as Meta, Microsoft, and Apple. For many years, these companies benefited from low taxation, as Ireland is notoriously known for its extremely low corporate tax rates, which remained around 12% compared to over 20% in markets like the UK and France. Overall, it is estimated that Ireland hosts more than 1,000 multinationals, generating up to 150,000 jobs in the country. Accordingly, it is important to note that the benefits of the European market extend beyond fiscal aspects, especially in terms of the EU's cooperation policy, which annually channels various incentives to boost member states. Data shows that Ireland has received over 20 billion euros in assistance from the bloc since joining the organization in 1973, with much of this funding allocated to various programs aimed at improving strategic areas that have driven the country's growth and modernization, such as transport infrastructure, encompassing roads, ports, railways, and communication systems. This also includes the agricultural sector, as Ireland has been one of the top beneficiaries of the Common Agricultural Policy. Strategically, CAP helped modernize Ireland's agricultural industry, increasing field productivity and bringing more income to farming families, who shifted from a traditional model to a competitive agricultural industry oriented toward external markets. For context, this sector employs 7% of the nation's workforce and has a presence in more than 180 markets worldwide. In this sense, a combination of unique advantages enabled Ireland to position itself globally as a hub for attracting investments, with a robust economy and a technological ecosystem exporting services to various markets. This resulted in one of the best economic performances in Europe over the past 28 years. With an average annual GDP growth of 5-6% between 1996 and 2024. So why has living in Ireland become impossible? Initially, the answer to this question aligns with Ireland's economic rise as a hub for technology companies, which in turn attracted thousands of skilled foreign workers and boosted housing demand in major cities like Dublin. This led to a real estate boom in the first decade of the 21st century. However, while Irish salaries grew by 100% between 1980 and 2020, property prices increased by over 230% in the same period. At some point, this created immense pressure on the country's housing market, which could not keep up with the demand for new homes. This issue began with the government halting housing construction at the end of the 20th century, transferring the responsibility for providing housing to the private sector. However, this decision granted a monopoly over construction to conglomerates of contractors, exacerbating market volatility and initiating property overvaluation. Previously, government-provided affordable housing had created a more stable market environment. Another factor contributing to this issue is Ireland's population growth over the past decade, which grew at 3 times the average rate of the EU between 1996 and 2016. Similarly, low interest rates made it easier for people to obtain loans, many of which were defaulted, fueling home purchases and construction in Ireland and heating up the market as never before. By 2006, more than 90,000 new homes had been delivered. This scenario brought about real estate speculation, with many buyers and investors believing that properties would yield high returns on resale as house prices tripled in value over 10 years, with expectations of continued growth. However, the 2008 financial crisis, aggravated by the collapse of the US housing market and the subsequent global financial system crash, severely impacted Irish banks, which were heavily tied to the real estate market and the massive loans directed to this sector. Consequently, the crisis caused a 50% devaluation in residential prices, leaving Irish banks with substantial losses due to their heavy reliance on this sector. For perspective, the mistrust caused by Ireland's real estate crash was so significant that housing construction fell by 90% in 2014 compared to 2006 levels. This drastic reduction in new housing construction contributed to an ever-growing housing deficit. Recent data indicates that Ireland faces a shortage of up to 256,000 homes, with projections suggesting this number will rise further by 2030. As a result, fewer houses are available in the market, while demand continues to grow alongside the population. In 2022, 98,000 new people moved to the country, marking the largest population increase recorded in Ireland since 2008. Notably, this increase is primarily due to international immigration, with most people choosing to settle in urban areas where jobs and services are concentrated. Naturally, this inflates residential costs and rents. According to a Savills Ireland study, for every housing unit delivered in Ireland between 2015 and 2023, 3.8 people were added to the population. This ratio is significantly worse than in other Western nations also facing housing crises, such as Spain with a ratio of 3.4 to 1, Canada with 2.9 to 1, and Australia with 1.9 to 1. Therefore, it is unsurprising that Ireland has one of the most saturated real estate markets in Europe, where the average price to purchase a house is around €350,000. However, this figure is much higher in major urban centers like Dublin, where buying a home costs over €500,000. Given this analysis, it is evident that the housing crisis has been one of the most severe problems facing Ireland over the past 16 years. The shortage of properties available for rent and purchase has pressured the country's standard of living, even as Irish incomes increased by 27% between 2015 and 2022. Meanwhile, house prices have tripled, rising by 66% over the same period, which inevitably reduces people's disposable income for other basic expenses like education, health, and leisure, compressing Irish families' living standards. As a result, the capital Dublin has Europe's highest rental costs, averaging €32.8 per square meter per month. Additionally, the city is the continent's second most expensive for apartment construction, behind only Zurich, Switzerland. It is also worth mentioning the nation's exorbitant cost of living, with Ireland becoming the second most expensive place to live in the European Union after Denmark. Irish consumers pay an average of 42% more for basic goods and services compared to the bloc's average. In practice, this discourages a portion of the population, particularly young people, from continuing to live in the country. Currently, 2/3 of Irish residents aged 25 to 34 do not own their homes. Moreover, homelessness and social vulnerability in Ireland are on the rise, with over 14,000 people registered as homeless in the country. Parallel to Ireland's economic and social crisis, groups commonly known as nanas have emerged. These are groups of young Irish people who gather in public spaces and may engage in behaviors such as vandalism, harassment, and attacks on immigrants and other vulnerable groups, especially in major cities like Dublin, Cork, and Limerick. Consequently, it is not uncommon for Brazilians and other immigrants to face harassment from these groups in these regions, often due to a perceived lack of consequences for their actions. There is debate that part of society, including the police, turns a blind eye to the activities of these groups, directly impacting immigrants and causing contributors to Irish society to consider relocating to less hostile countries. Therefore, while Ireland's economic ascent in recent decades has demonstrated the nation's adaptability, innovation, and resilience to the world, structural issues like the housing crisis and the need for public infrastructure are significantly exacerbating many of the challenges inherent in the country's growth model. This has made Ireland an increasingly difficult place to live, even for its own people, with up to 1/3 of residents considering moving to a more affordable location. It is essential for Ireland to continue investing in urban infrastructure, building affordable housing, and promoting deep structural reforms to recover and achieve even greater prosperity. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you can, drop a comment below with the next topic you'd like to see on the channel. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and share it with your friends. Thanks again for your support, and see you in the next video.